Welcome to Replayable, where we go into depth on our favorite tabletop games that keep us coming back again and again. I'm the start player, Todd, and today I'm joined by Dave and Paul. For our 46th episode, we'll be mixing ingredients and publishing nonsense in Alchemists. It was published in 2014 by Czech Games Edition, better known as CGE. It is designed by Matouš Kotry with artwork by David Cochard. Hey, how early do you want to wake up to go first when we get to the prompts?
I need more ingredients.
Right?
Fair is foul and foul is fair. I'm ready to go.
Yep. In Alchemists, players take on the role of scholars, trying to uncover the secrets of alchemy. Over 6 rounds, they gather ingredients, mix potions, and publish theories, all while managing their reputation. A companion app determines the hidden rules of alchemy in each game. Players sell their potions, can buy artifacts, and even bluff their way to academic success, but incorrect theories can hurt their credibility at the end of the game. At the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. So the first thing I wanted to ask you guys, this is a CGE game, and I think it's the third one we've done. We've also done Lost Ruins of Arnak. We've done Codenames. Is it any surprise to you that this is a CGE game? Dave?
To me, this is what I expect of a CGE game. The production value is the way they always are. And CGE always has innovation that we don't always see in other games. There's always something specific or something new. You know, every year I look forward to the CGE release. I mean, I can't wait to play that copy of SETI that you just got, or
right.
What last year was Kutnahora, which I've been enjoying. I wish we could play more. So I'm always looking forward to the CGE Essen release. And this fits right in with it as far as them getting interesting, being very thematic, but also being a very meaty game behind it, the app integration, all of that. So I'm not surprised at all. This is what I'm looking for with CGE.
How about you, Paul?
Personally, I associate CGE with a very tactily pleasant game, something that is really fun to touch. And I think Alchemists does succeed in that.
Interesting. Okay.
You're thinking like Galaxy Trucker?
Yeah, just all the bits and tokens. Like you said, they're all high quality, and I love to feel them and play with them.
Nice. Like Dungeon Lords, Dungeon Pets, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking of as well, yeah.
Okay.
Though none of the CGE games are just another X. You never go like, I played the new one. It was kind of just another worker placement game, or it's just another Euro, or
right.
There's always a twist. Or like Lost Ruins of Arnak. I mean, is there anything new in that game that we haven't seen in other games? But it doesn't feel like just another cube exchanger or, you know, whatever it is, however we call it. So there's always a unique feel to it. And I feel this fits right in.
I mean, Lost Ruins has the tablets and the arrowheads.
Right.
Yeah.
And the rubies, and they're all just so much fun to pick up and put down.
Yeah, I agree. That's part of the experience that I hadn't considered, Paul, was just the tactile nature of it. It does feel like they do that innovation that you were talking about, Dave, and sometimes it doesn't always come off, but they are definitely out there trying. And I think when you look at this game in particular, I think we're going to talk about the different layers to it and all the different elements that go into it. It'll be interesting to see whether we come to a conclusion, a concoction, a potion, if you will, how this game rates amongst Alchemy and potentially other CGE games. As we've talked about, alchemy is my catnip, right? If a game says it's about alchemy, I think I have a copy of it somewhere. I want to ask you guys, what are the must-have components of an alchemy game? When you hear that theme, what are you expecting in it? Paul?
I struggle with this question. I have to think about the origins of the word alchemy, and it's really just chemistry for people who had no clue about the table of elements.
Right.
And so I think anything involving mixing or separating can be classified as an alchemy game.
Okay. So we have some kind of mixing, or if we really wanted to go for it, transmutation. That's got to be in a game about alchemy.
Yeah, so along that line, I think the other thing about alchemy that draws people, and perhaps you, is the mysteriousness, the discovery of the unknown, because that's what alchemists were trying to do.
Right? Okay. So that's interesting because some of these games, they will tell you, like, these two elements create this second level element, right? right? You take some air, you take some iron, and you're going to come out with, I don't know, feathers, whatever it turns out to be. And so you start the game knowing the mixture possibilities. But in this one, obviously, they're using an app. They're using the map to keep it a mystery. Do you prefer the mystery version?
Yeah, it's so romantic. Like, I think it actually can transport the player into the idea of being an alchemist when there is that mystery.
Yeah. Okay. So, Dave, what about you? What other elements does an alchemy game need?
Well, does this game have transmutation?
Not really.
We're not really creating second level resources or something like that.
Right.
It's more of a deduction. That part of the game is more just deduction.
I mean, if you want to argue it, you're creating effects. Like when you drink a potion and you have to go to the hospital.
Right.
Right.
Or when a warrior comes, he only wants to buy beneficial potions, but when the assassin comes, he only wants to buy negative potions. So I argue that there is a little bit of transmutation, as you said.
I think of transmutation as like changing iron into gold, something physical into something tangible, whereas we're brewing potions here. So part of alchemy is getting to some universal elixir or magical elixir. So, we'll say it's alchemy. So semantics aside, what other elements? So we're going to have some kind of mixing and changing. Sure. What else do we need?
Well, something that I thematically like in an alchemy game is risk or danger. There's a little bit of this here when you drink your own potion, but it's not like Quacks of Quedlinburg, where you could, just blow
Right.
everything up. But
Technically not an alchemy game.
Well, exactly. Right. So,
at least according to BGG, but you might have a different opinion.
But that
I think I
element
do.
of it that Quacks does have is that it's like you're a mad scientist. You're kind of at the edge of, I'm going to go for it. And I would like to see a little more risk on, like, I could blow up some lab equipment. I could have some lasting effects, or I could have like a lasting superpower or, something like that. I'm not saying I'm ready to tweak the game, but in an alchemy type of game, I would like to see a little more risk reward maybe, or a little more danger involved.
Okay. The idea that you can choose the level of guarantee that you're going to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get the exact color and you're going to get the right polarity versus, okay, I'm just going to give you the right polarity versus I might give you water, right?
Right.
So,
or I might kill him. That's not in the game. You can't kill the student.
well, I didn't mean that. I specifically the selling aspect of it.
So, Dave, you want to turn it up to 11.
Dave wants, I guess,
He wants a potion explosion.
that's a different game.
And I want to be, and I want to be at the edge of that risk where, like, I'm going for it. This might work. I've got like a 70% chance, and I blew up some lab equipment. Now I got to go buy some beakers or something like that.
All right, so we've got mixing, we've got some element of risk. There's got to be some kind of ingredient gathering, right? In this game, it's one of the things you can assign your action cubes to, and you can either draw from the display or you can top deck it. But you got to be able to get ingredients of some sort together to be able to do the mixing. Anything else that we need?
Gold?
Gold? Okay.
I don't know. It's
Gold points something, right? We
kind
have
of
to
the icing on the cake.
Right. Okay. So let's start talking about those, because obviously this game has all of those things, right? It has gold. It has a point system beyond the gold, right? So the idea of maintaining your reputation and doing publishing and or debunking.
I love how in this game, transmuting things into gold is like old hat. That's already been solved.
Right.
You can turn ingredients into gold all day long.
Right. Yeah. But if you're going to go the route of mystery paths now, so if you look at just the mixing and what comes out of it, how do you mitigate against the luck of the draw? In other words, the last game we played with the expansion, right? King's Golem. And like the second test I did, I found an element that lit up the heart and made steam come out of the ears. It was the perfect test. How do you mitigate against that kind of luck in a game like this?
With worker placement and artifacts.
Yeah, right?
If you're not including the King's Golem, all of our first tests, however we do them, are pretty equal, whether you get a negative or a positive or what color you get, or you get a null or something like that. We're all getting some information towards the puzzle.
Right.
Rarely, I can't think of a situation where I just mixed the perfect two ingredients and I learned a lot more information than you guys did. Now, maybe I learned more information that's going to help me sell to the first person who comes to market. That
Right.
could be a little lucky on my part, but I'm no further particular in solving the deduction board.
Right. By the way, I do feel like that's the perfect start when, you have your starting ingredients and you keep one double aside so you can use one thing plus one from outside and you find out how to make blue positive. And then you can see that the next adventurer is going to come around, or the first adventurer in round 2 wants blue positive potions. And you're like, yes, I already have one of the 2 ingredients I know makes that. You're already off to the races.
That's very risk averse.
Yeah.
I prefer to make adventurers potions that I'm not quite sure what's going to come out.
Okay.
Well,
So I can
Paul
learn
was talking
something.
about, he was explaining some next level that I didn't even see through my first few plays, is that using the market as a test.
Right.
I hadn't even thought about that. I'm just using the market for what I know to get money. But because you can have low guarantees, you can use that market to learn something. And who cares if you make a coin? I mean, great if you make a coin, but it's another way just to learn more of what these potions or ingredients do.
Yeah, especially if I draw a barmaid helper,
Right.
then I'm far more likely to try out my recipes on the customers.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's really interesting is if you stare at the grid long enough and you cross out some of the boxes, probabilities start to emerge for the remaining ones.
Absolutely.
You can do some prediction there.
You can. So the type of mitigation I was thinking about is the publication mechanism. If you've had bad tests, like let's say you found 2 different ways to make red positive, so you really don't feel like you're getting, ahead of the game as far as solving the board, that's okay. There's going to be a conference coming up. People are going to be publishing and hedging their bets, but now you can check to see what it is they know how to make. And you can start filling in your grid and getting those predictions because people are encouraged to share information.
Absolutely.
And so that's another one of the novel things that happened in our last game, Paul, where you publish something and I'm like, okay, what of Paul's thing can I trust? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, he knows how to make one. He knows how to make one of the things in his publication. Let's call it red positive. I forget which positive it was.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so he can hedge on blue, but he has no idea about green. He just took a 50-50.
But you went to your board and you're like, oh, Fern is red positive because Paul guarantees it.
Right. Exactly. And Paul knows how to make that. So there's that element of it too. And that's what I mean by mitigating the luck. I think what this game really does well is it prevents someone from having a runaway knowledge advantage because of the publication mechanism. So you could be out doing something else, but you could still fill in a lot of spots and make educated guesses based on how closely you've been paying attention to what elements people have been taking.
That's
and what
absolutely true, but be
Yeah.
careful because I could whine in front of you
Yeah, absolutely.
and make the red negative, guaranteeing that on my next turn I will debunk myself because that's what I hedged.
You could. I mean, that's like 3rd level. We haven't, I don't know. I don't know if any one of us have gone all the way to that level yet. All right. What makes this possible, at least, for all of us to participate is the app, right? You're able to scan the elements or ingredients and it tells you what they make. How do you feel about using an app as part of a game? This is not something we've done a whole lot of.
Yeah, I gotta say, other games leave me feeling disappointed a lot of the time, but not Alchemists. I love it.
Right?
It depends on the game. If it's gimmicky, then I don't really care. But in this case, I mean, I know you can do a moderator board, but then you have to have a moderator.
Right.
In this case, it's essential. It's not just a gimmick. It's not just something to be clever. It's the difference when we would play Clue as kids. You have to put one of the cards under the board. And then when you make a guess, you look at it. And if you're wrong, you're out. Game's over for you.
Yeah, you're out of the game.
Yeah. In this case, it's able to keep that information secret. And as you make guesses at it, you still get to play in the game, but you don't have to look at everything to see if you're right. So it's very well implemented here.
Especially considering the age. Like, is it one of the first hybrids?
Yeah.
It was one of the first hybrid games that I can think of. Again, 2014. This game's over 10 years old.
Yeah.
This is more my own curiosity. Have there been any digital hybrid games that you thought were done well or poorly?
Ready, Set, Bet is another excellent example.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, One Night Werewolf took the moderator out of Werewolf, which was really nice.
That is also really nice, yes.
And also along the same lines, Werewords works really well.
There you go.
I was a little disappointed with XCOM.
Right. What about My Father's Work? I know that uses one.
I don't remember.
I felt like it was superfluous. Like, we could have played without it. I don't know.
Yeah. Dave, you were talking about the Tales of the Arthurian Knights that you played recently.
Mm-hmm.
Does that use an app to manage the branching storyline?
No, it could, which would make things go a lot faster. But no, it's you flip through a choose your own adventure kind of book.
Right.
somebody could make that digital, even narrate it would be nice, but it works well.
That is the nice part about my father's work is
Right.
they took a choose your own adventure book, put it into an app, but it has a very good narrator.
Right. All right.
One thing before we go on, we were talking about the mystery of an alchemy game.
Right.
I just, as a total side note, what I want to see is a hybrid between this and like Beyond the Sun, where there's a tech tree that we're kind of discovering that's organic as the game goes on. That
Yes.
now I can mix this with that, and now I can have this. Now we mix that with that, and we get this tech tree going. So that was just a side dream that I was having while I was going through the notes here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It would be great if you didn't know ahead of time how the branches merged as they funnel down, or in Beyond the Sun, they expand before they funnel down to the level 4s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a level that I have not yet seen implemented in a game. Like even here, there are no second level elements, right? You don't take 2 to create, or I should say there are no third level elements.
Right.
Everything, you get information about the base element by looking at what it creates, but you don't combine 2 to create a second level and then take 2 second levels and create a third. That doesn't exist.
Right.
Okay.
That was just a side dream, but in this case, it's not really possible because you need 2 ingredients to make one. So if we were talking to second level, you need 4 ingredients to make a second level. It's hard enough to get the ingredients you need as it is.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure there are computer games that'll scratch that itch too.
Yes, right. Yep.
Hey, but there's no harm in trying to think about what it might look like for a board game.
Very true.
How do you feel about the way that this game manages point scoring?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, with something like Clue, with that deduction, it's you solve as much as you can and you get to an all or none proposition. I really like in here that you're taking risks. You're making decisions based on limited information.
Mm-hmm.
And so the publishing, and especially with the conferences, encouraging you to publish early, I think it makes it great that I know so little, but I know you guys are going to publish. I got to get something out there. So we have these opportunities to hedge. So that creates, I think, a really great pressure on the game that makes it a lot of fun that, we're not going to wait until the very end to where we've all solved one thing or whoever solved it first. We're just kind of winging it as we go.
Right.
It's a really good balance because if you let just one person publish, they're going to get a whole bunch of free points because of whoever's published the most at the end of every round gets a reputation. And
Mm-hmm.
and if everybody races to publish and you let one person get all the artifacts, then they're probably going to win because they've been able to convert their gold into points much more efficiently than everybody else.
Right. And how about that agonizing situation where you want to publish, but all of the tiles that are available to you are wrong?
Mm-hmm. You got to debunk first.
I love debunking.
The point really that I want to get to is that interplay of publishing and debunking,
Yes.
where you have to publish early on limited knowledge and the ability to debunk, I think is what makes the entire game. I mean, that's what's so great about it.
I agree. Yeah. And then there were times where I remember that I think this was 2 games ago where we had all identified like the same theory that was wrong.
Mhm.
I don't know, let's say it was Scorpion. I don't remember which one it was. And I think Paul debunked it first. And then Dave, you and I both kind of looked at each other and went, oh, darn, that's what I was going to debunk. And then we started looking.
We all knew it was wrong.
What am I going to do with that cube that I assigned to that spot?
Yeah. Well, it turns out everything we had published up to that point was wrong, I think. So there was plenty to be able to debunk.
I know, for as many as 50-50 swings as you take on it, because you do 2 tests, 2 of the 3 things usually on an element when you publish it. So you got a 50-50.
Yeah.
We uniformly got the 50-50 wrong. None of
Yes.
us even lucked into a correct publication on that game. That was funny. All right. How about bidding for turn order? And what I'm trying to say is each step along the way of this game, there's an extra little twist to it. Yeah, you get to go first this round, but what going first means is you get to place the first bid on the day's activities to determine how early you're going to wake up, which basically means what level of priority you're going to have when we are resolving actions. How do you like that mechanism?
I think it's great.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love it too. I don't know that the resources available really match up with it. There might be the case where I really need 2 ingredients or something like that. And so I end up going third or something because of it. But at some points in the game, we all need different things. So I might be able to go first because I don't need the ingredients or something like that. So they have changing values for us, which I think is kind of interesting because usually in games like this, it's the same value proposition going first or going last, we're all facing the same thing. So in this case, it gets a little strange that I could go last and go first and I'm not really giving up much to do it. Whereas
Right.
I really need to go first, but I also really need ingredients so I could put myself in a bad way. So I don't know, it's a really interesting mechanism that changes in ways that I'm not expecting as we're playing the game. And then if you add busy days, it's different.
I think you said it right that it's a strategic decision because you can set yourself up to be forced into last just by spending all your ingredients, like you're saying. Whereas if you keep some in your pocket, you have that flexibility to pick a better turn order.
Right.
Well, along those lines, what do you guys think of the progressive start player? The start player moves every round.
Right.
The clockwise rotating start player.
Right. So in other games where we get to choose who goes first, or we're bidding on turn order or something, often it's the last place player chooses, or, whoever's behind in points or something like that.
What
but
about
in this case,
in CGE games, though?
I have to think of other examples where they have this rotating,
Doesn't it rotate in Lost Ruins?
I think CGE likes the rotating start player.
That's right. But this one, to layer on top of that, then choose your own turn order. It's like a double layer turn order.
Kind of, yeah. Doesn't Dungeon...
Either pets or the other one, yeah.
Lords or pets?
Dungeon Lords. Doesn't Dungeon Lords have the same thing? But anyway, I like it because it makes the game a little more predictable. You know when you're going to get first pick and when you're going to get last pick. And you know exactly how many rounds are going to happen.
True, but I'm going to come back to, in this game, going first doesn't mean you actually go first. You just get to go first to say where you on the chart you're going to go. So let's say that you absolutely want to be the number one spot because you want to have a chance to publish your theory first. Sure, you can take that spot if you pay a gold. But now you say, I don't want to give up the gold. Second's just as good, and I don't have to pay for that. So you go in that spot and you leave that top spot open. Now, even though you got a chance to go first, someone else could decide they're willing to pay that gold and take that spot.
Absolutely.
And that cascades all the way down. So I feel like this game's got a really novel take on it. And then to top it all off, once you get that order established, the person with the lowest priority has to actually go first when it comes to placing their cubes on the board. So that's always fun too, because then you're like, oh, okay, I can go ahead and if I'm waking up the earliest, so I'm going to place my cubes last, I have the most assurity of when I get to go, right?
Right.
Have we ever seen anything like that? It's such a novel way to manage turn order and capabilities.
Well, Fresco has it, but that's done in whoever's lowest on the points track decides what time they're going to wake up first. So that's a little bit of a catch-up mechanism.
Okay.
And then the more you sleep in, the happier your workers are. The earlier you wake up, though, your workers might not be as happy, but you're the first one to the paint bins. So you get your choice of the paint and stuff like that.
Of the cubes that got drawn out of the bag for that round?
Yeah.
Right.
So Fresco has it, but in this one, it's like every element of this game, they make it a little more interesting by having a double layer because, like you said, the last person is the first to choose which parts of the board they're going to go to.
Right.
But really, when you're saying you want to go first, what you're saying is I'm going to go first in every category that we go to.
Unless...
Well, yeah. So we're about to get to one of my quibbles with the game where maybe you guys can set me straight because you want to talk about artifacts and helpers.
Let's talk about the favors.
Yeah. Oh, is that what they are? Favors? The helpers?
They're called favor cards, but yeah, the helpers.
Okay. I mean, are they swingy?
They're situational. So yes.
This is where I feel like I've drawn things that don't help me. I've drawn things that like, this is amazing. Or I've saved up a bunch of money, got myself to the artifact thing, and no good artifacts come out in round 2 or something like that. They seem super swingy. Or maybe you could have something that gives you 10 points and an artifact that gives it to you again. Right, Todd?
Right. That was with the expansion. But yes, that happened. What if I called them intrigue cards? Do you like them better? For the audience, that was a reference to Dune Imperium.
Right.
They're highly situational, Dave.
Yes.
Is that what you mean by swingy?
Yeah. Especially, I mean, I guess like it's like any game with this sort of element is you want to get your cards early and then plan around them rather than try to top deck good cards late. But I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like some cards are a lot stronger than other cards. And maybe it's that I don't know how to use the cards that I'm thinking are weak. But I feel like sometimes I'll make a good investment, go later in the turn or something so I can get one of those favor cards cards, and, it doesn't really help me that much. Or I get one that makes me move up to the top. Great. Well, somebody else had the exact same card because it's not a unique deck.
Right. That happened to you too, I remember.
It did happen to me.
You played it, and then Paul turned around and played one and he still got ahead of you on that one.
He got to go firster the night. I went first, and then he went firster. So maybe that's part of why I have the quibble.
Yeah, it was glorious.
I look at it like those intrigue cards from Dune Imperium. You can ignore them and try to play a straight game, but in all probability, you're going to end up losing because somebody has gotten those cards and plays them at the right moment to give them an edge in whatever the confrontation is going to be. I mean, we can call it the conflict from Dune Imperium, but it could be, well, Paul went last because he needed to have the ingredients to sell, but then he chose to go first when making the guarantees and selecting which potions he was going to sell because he had the right assistant. But I feel like you've got to pay some attention to that.
Yeah.
Which means you need to incorporate some of them into your play.
Yeah, and just like in Dune Imperium, I feel like I got that right away, but maybe I just need to learn the cards more.
Right.
But I feel like all the time I get like one discount in the artifact row. Like, I could have just I could have just paid the extra coin. I would rather have get the go first card. Or
that gold stacks up. I mean, that's one coin that you...
Oh, yeah.
If you pay, you're not going to have it to publish in the next round. So that means I'm going to have... I'm going to have to transmute an ingredient, which means I need to draw an ingredient. And now I don't have enough cubes to do a test, which, okay, now I'm behind the knowledge curve. It's fascinating how the game syncs like that.
Well, do you think the cards are balanced?
There are definitely some cards that I prefer to see. Like, I move the one that allows you to move to the top of the stack. That one's great. Not so thrilled with the herbalist that allows you to draw 2 ingredients, choose one, discard the other, and you have to use it immediately.
Right.
And yet there are times where, great, you just saved me from having to collect an ingredient. And if I get lucky in top deck, one of the ones I'm looking for, it's a good card. So
yeah,
I think they are useful enough that I would want to make sure I incorporated them into my game.
Well, when it comes to artifacts, do you feel, there's basically each player has access to probably 3 artifacts? Because there's 3 rounds where they come out, and usually everybody's going to try to pick one up. You usually wouldn't get like 4 artifacts, would you?
In a 3-player game, everyone's going to really have a shot at one. In a 4-player game, you're going to have a lot more competition for artifacts.
Right.
Yeah, and I think getting artifacts means slowing down in your publishing.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do a little of both, or you can go all in on one or the other.
I don't know that you can ignore publishing, though, because of the knock-on effects, right?
Well, if 2 players are going publishing and fighting each other, then the 3rd player can be like, go ahead, guys. I'll just get a bunch of artifacts.
But gaining artifacts means that you're earning gold, but people who are publishing are getting more reputation, so they're getting extra favor from the adventurers, right? You have the lines that say, once you're over 10 reputation, let's say, the adventurer automatically assumes you're giving him an extra smiley face.
Right.
So now to compete, if you're going artifacts, you may have to discount what you're selling it for, which means you'll have less money for artifacts.
Yeah, I think that's a good design. I feel like if that was not the case, then going artifacts would be the best way to win because there's no risk.
Right. Okay.
Well, what do you think the artifacts are adding to the game? Is it too simple without them? Or are we all just doing the same thing without them? Does it give us lanes?
It's an alternate victory condition. That's what I think.
And in some cases, it's giving you a leg up on the game, right? The periscope.
True. The low victory point artifacts give you information to help you publish.
Or they make it easier for you to publish. They give you a discount on publishing. Or they allow you to keep an ingredient, the magic mortar, out of each of the things you make. So that one might just straight up be broken.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one ingredient per turn, though. Right?
It is, but it's one you already know something about. So I think that's interesting because that puts you closer to either solving that ingredient altogether or finding out at least a second item so that you can successfully hedge and publish, or it's that much closer to a successful brewing for the adventurer. I mean, it's a good one. It hasn't come out in the last couple of games we've played.
Yeah, I do admit that we probably haven't played enough to evaluate whether certain artifacts should be worth more or less reputation.
Right.
Or certain starting cards in King's Golem.
So the the reason why we keep coming back to that, so the King's Golem has startup funding is one of the 4 modules.
Yes.
And this one allows you to draw 4 cards and you keep 2. And so those 2 cards that you keep determine what your starting resources are for the game instead of the standard setup that is in the base game. And one of my cards was you get 5 reputation points at the end of the first round. And then an artifact came out called Replicator, which basically said you get to replay your startup cards. So I made sure I was first in the round to buy that artifact. So that was 10 points right out of the gate that I knew I had with that combination. That was broken. Yeah. To make it worse, Paul, I actually had one of the cards I discarded, startup funding, was a second plus 5 point card.
Sure, but I think if you had taken that, likely would not have been able to publish at all.
Right.
Whereas in this case, you got a whole bunch of points and you were able to publish.
Right. Okay. Moving on to the prompts. Weight and complexity on Board Game Geek scale of 1 to 5. How heavy do you think Alchemists is? Paul.
I give it a 3. I think it is very straightforward, but it does take a couple games to understand the deduction part.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a deduction puzzle unlike any you've seen before, right?
Well, I'll call out one that I feel is very similar later on.
Okay. I like it.
Well, for weight and complexity, I'm going to give it a 4, and I'm not even embarrassed about that because it's one thing to navigate the deduction board. That's not too bad. But on top of that, we're navigating multiple currencies, ingredients, and gold.
Mm-hmm.
So that starts to get a little tougher. And then we got the artifacts and the favor cards and all of that. But what really pushes it up to a 4 for me is navigating timing. Timing is so important in the game.
Yes.
And it's so difficult to do. I mean, I can understand the rules. The last time we played, or not last time, a few times ago we played, it had been a while since we played. It took me a while to get back up to speed. But once I got it, I'm like, okay, this is pretty simple. I got it. But getting that timing down is tough. If there's an artifact you need to get yourself in a position to be going first that round or publishing or debunking, that I find very difficult to navigate. So that's what gives it an extra bump to a 4 for me.
Understood. And I agree. I also had it down as a 4, not ashamed about it. And it's more than just the aspect of the deduction. It's all the vagaries around publishing and then debunking. And then when Paul publishes his theory on Scorpion and it's obviously hedged, I have to try to figure out what part of it is likely to be real. And it's a lot to keep track of. So I think it's a 4. I agree with that. So then strategy, how much opportunity is there for strategy and long-term planning on the same scale of 1 to 5? Dave?
Well, strategy, I haven't explored an artifact strategy like Paul's talking about. I feel like we're all kind of trying to do the same thing. So I don't see multiple paths to victory. I'm winging it. It's very tactical. I'm kind of winging it as we go each time. We all have to learn stuff. We all have to publish. We all have to debunk. We all need ingredients. We all need money. We're all kind of just doing that, navigating those same things. I mean, how far can you plan ahead in this game? A turn, 2 turns? I'm not even sure on that. So, I give it a 3 because, it's, like I said, super tactical, but you got to know how to get from point A to point B. And that's not always obvious right up front.
Yeah. Once again, I'm in agreement with you. I had it also down as a 3. It's like a lot of the strategy in the game can be mitigated, which sounds weird that you're going to mitigate strategy, but the turn order bidding and those favor cards can make up a lot of ground. You may have a desire to do something and someone either gets in front of you because they managed those 2 aspects better, or you use those to jump in front of somebody else. And so I feel like 3 is a good score in my book. What'd you have, Paul?
I also give it a 3.
Nice.
The game almost forces you to be strategic.
Right.
In the way it's laid out. All the things that require knowledge happen first in the day, and then all the ways to gain knowledge happen later.
Yeah.
So you do have to plan at least 1 turn ahead, if not more. But as you guys said, you have to really stay flexible because things change.
Right. So if things are changing, how much luck is there in the game?
I give luck a 3.
Okay.
3, 3, 3.
This is the game of 3s.
Yes. Yeah. As we've talked about, you never know exactly what potion you're going to brew.
Right.
When you introduce a new ingredient. And while there is a lot of luck, especially with the favor cards, there's a lot of ways to choose how much risk you want to take.
Right.
So I think it's right in the middle.
Okay. What did you have, Dave, for luck?
I'm pretty much in line. I have luck at a 3.
Okay.
And not because I feel like you're going to have a run of bad luck usually, but I feel like you can get a run of good luck. You can draw the right ingredients off the start of your day. Just get exactly what you need. You could you could draw the right favor card and things that really help you out. I think if you're saying that you're having bad luck, I think it's the case we're always talking about. You're not listening to what the game's telling you.
Right.
The helper cards and artifacts available would be telling you maybe the directions you should be going. And if you're not listening to that, you might say, I'm having bad luck.
Okay. I feel like I have to revise my answer. I originally had this down as a 2, but I could see it getting to a 3. And you guys nailed the 2 places I was thinking about, right? The luck of the favor cards that you draw, and then primarily top decking ingredients, or they're on display when you come around, if that happens too. But those are like 2 areas that you can't do much to mitigate them. You can draw more of them and mitigate in that way, but you're sacrificing elsewhere in the game to be able to do that.
Well, what about like a few games ago we played, Paul just could not get money. And
right.
The guy who came to market was looking for a potion that you could make and a potion I could make, but Paul couldn't make any of the potions. So not only like we each got another 4 coins.
Right.
And I knew how to make this potion. The guy showed up to market looking for that potion. Like that to me is kind of a stroke of good luck at that point.
Yeah.
But I knew exactly what he needed. I didn't have to do any extra work to get there.
Didn't I win that game? Wasn't that the game where Dave was like, oh, I put the wrong seal there.
Oh, that's the game
I could have won.
That is true.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show there are other ways to win, right?
Yes.
Paul was selling a lot of ingredients for the money he needed to publish, which means he wasn't doing a lot of testing. Okay, he made it work.
I think I'm conflating 2 games. It was the one we played with the expansion where I think Paul just could not even get 1 coin. Maybe it was turn 3 before you saw a coin.
Yeah, I just decided not to bother with money.
So then theme, how much do you think the theme has been integrated with this game? I'm going to go out there and say, I'm all in on this one. This is a 5 for me. I can't think of a better game about alchemy. What did you guys have?
Well, I don't think I'm ready to go all the way to a 5 on it. For the reasons we talked earlier, I want a little more danger. I want my lab to blow up sometimes. But more so, I don't feel like we're doing alchemical things. I feel like we're mixing things and getting pluses and minuses and reds and greens and blues. I don't feel like, and it's not an alchemy game, but in Quacks of Quedlinburg, which I do kind of thematically feels along the same lines, the things that I'm purchasing, the ingredients that I'm getting are making me more powerful.
Right.
And I'm working them together to get further and get bigger things and kind of snowballing in that one. In this one, I don't feel the ingredients are turning into anything other than red and blue pluses and minuses.
Right. Okay.
I'm not making a flying potion, an invisibility potion. Like if they had names like that, then I would feel more thematic with it. But I made a green minus potion. What is that?
So somewhere buried in the rules, they actually do have names.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's what I'm just missing. I should read the rule book and give it a 5.
How about you, Paul? How do you think it rates on theme?
I just don't connect with it. So I rated a 3. I mean,
Okay.
I appreciate it. I love how CGE produced it, but at no point do I feel like a wizard studying ingredients. I play the game for the deduction and then to try to win.
Right.
Okay, so red plus is healing, blue plus is, so they kind of go, okay, so the red is healing versus poison, green is speed versus paralysis, and blue is wisdom versus insanity.
There you go.
So next time we play, I will refer to them as such, and then I think I'll feel a little more, I'll feel the theme a little more.
And we won't, and you won't.
Yeah.
All right. Those are the names. So theoretically, they're there. And I thought we'd already talked that potions counted towards alchemy because it includes elixirs.
When I think of alchemy, I think of you're trying to turn like lead into gold.
Absolutely. Yes.
But I mean, that's looking for a chemical reaction, just like mixing 2 liquids are.
Right.
So, but I don't see how like Quacks is different. I mean, you're mixing things and looking for a chemical reaction.
Right. Yeah. And you're hoping you don't blow up that cauldron while you're at it.
Right.
All right. So Paul gave it a 3. So favorite player count. What is the game best played at? What are your thoughts here, Paul?
It's tough. I think I prefer 3 players because it's a little faster and there's a little less sharing of information.
Mm-hmm.
So the chance to bluff others is higher than in 4-player. I'm comparing 3 and 4 players. Those are what I was waffling between.
Right.
And I think I slightly prefer 3-player.
Yep. I had 3-player for time considerations. I think 4 is probably the better game, but 3 is the better experience.
No, that's exactly where I was with it. It's that trade-off fun. 4 might be a little bit better, but it might also be 30 minutes longer.
Right. So then least favorite player count's now a redundant question because it's the one that none of us discussed already, and that's 2. So,
yeah, I think we probably all put the same thing here.
So moving on to the next question, actual playing time, because boxes can lie. And this box says it's 120 minutes flat. That's not been our experience. What do you think?
Maybe if you played weekly.
Right?
Well, I don't know. We played a few weeks ago after not playing in a while, and we came in at 2.5 hours, didn't we?
Right.
So, and that was a little like head scratching and how's this work again? And that, so kind of dusting some things off. So I don't think 2 hours is out of the question. It does feel like it's all night when we play. I mean, it feels like an event type game, but I'd say 120 to 150.
You think the amount of focus that's required lends that feeling of it being a big thing? I mean, you come out of this drained.
Yeah, but no more so than like when we play Age of Steam. I mean, there's some games where I feel like time stops while we're playing because I'm just so like I'm there on the board, with steam coming out of my ears and 3 hours have gone by and I didn't even notice. So not really on that level, but I'm definitely focused and in the game the whole time.
Yeah. Paul, what do you think about the time estimates?
We've talked about this many times. Our group consistently fails to play within the time list on the box.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of those cases.
This is no exception. All right. So when we talk about editions of the game, there used to be a really good implementation online at Boîte de Jeu, but that whole site is now gone, unfortunately. So we can't talk about that, but maybe we can spend a couple of minutes talking about the recent re-implementation of this game, which is Little Alchemists, which takes this game and kind of divides it into bite-sized chunks and creates a semi-legacy game out of it. How do you feel about Little Alchemists, Dave?
I didn't realize when we first started playing it how strong the emphasis was on the word little in Little Alchemists. That I really think it's a children's game. That it's not even really a family level game.
Okay.
And in some cases, almost an activity more than a game is that I've definitely played games where there aren't meaningful decisions. There's 50-50s.
Right.
But that's where I think if played as a child, I don't think you're going to see really the framework that's holding it together. But I think having a little bit of experience and looking at it, when I play the game with my family, I think we each maybe mix about 3 potions before we've solved the game.
Right.
And we're done with it. And our games are 10, 15 minutes. And I just feel like even with adding things to it, we're only to the 6th box. We do have a 7th box to add, but some of the elements like the pets, they don't even really come into play. They're just extra things that, maybe you got a coin once and that's it. So I don't know. It's fun, but I would never play it outside of the context with my younger children. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that the first few times that I was playing that with my family, and then I know that we had a couple games together before you got your copy, it's really laying the foundations of how to play and understand the 50-50. And even the point structure around it was pretty obvious. Like, something, and if you get it right, great. And if not, that's okay. You're going to be able to republish the other direction on your next turn, and you're going to miss out on 1 point. You're going to miss out 1 point in deduction for it. So you almost can't do anything else other than just rush to publish in that game. But it's not a bad lesson to learn if you're using it to prepare to play this one.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of bad talking it, but we've really had fun with it. And I don't think it was terribly expensive, but we enjoyed going through it. But I think once we open that 7th box, maybe play a game or 2, and then it might be done. And I feel like there's quite a huge jump from Little Alchemist to Alchemist. I don't think this brings you up to the level of Alchemist when you're done.
Right. And I don't think that was its intention either, right?
Yeah.
Latouche Cottry talks about how he designed this to play with his kids. And
yeah, I think that's accurate.
Right. And to experience some of what his first game has, which he's designed now, if we're going to be generous, 3 games. If you want to be snide or snarky, you could say 2.5, right? It's Alchemists, it's Deal with the Devil, and then it's Little Alchemists. That's his current ludography.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about it is they all have companion apps, right? I think he's focused on this idea of bringing something extra into the game to be a moderator to keep information sharing limited between players.
And he's wildly succeeded at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, expansions. So there are a couple of promo cards, but really the big expansion here is the King's Golem. How do you guys feel about the expansion? I understand we just played it. I think for a couple of you, it was either the first time in a long time or the first time ever.
Well, I feel like it's for experts only.
Right?
At least the King's Golem module
Right.
of the expansion. The other modules you can throw in at any experience level, but I have no desire to play the King's Golem module again until I feel like I've played the base game too many times.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's one of those expansions that's necessary after you've played the game 100 times and you still love the game, but you are getting a little tired of it.
Right.
It adds another layer. But before you get to that point of saturation, it made the game longer. I thought it made it a little less fun. I didn't enjoy it. But like Paul said, I liked the busy days and I liked the other element that we had in there.
The startup funding.
The startup funding and the busy days was fun.
Right. So the two items, we mentioned the King's Golem. So that's, or the Golem Project, I think is what it's called, which is a separate set of testing actions to try to find out what are the attributes that will animate the Golem. And then there's the Royal Encyclopedia.
The encyclopedia, yeah.
Which is a different publishing mechanism. But in order to publish the encyclopedia, you need to play a King's Favor token, which means you had to have tested on the Golem. All right.
I mean, it's a lot like our feelings about the Dune Imperium expansions, right? It's
Right.
layering more, and I don't think we need more.
Well, I think specifically the encyclopedia is. I don't think the others are.
Right.
I agree with that. I think the King's Golem expansion is actually a lot better than the Dune Imperium expansions because it really opens up the game even more once you're an expert at it. I don't want to rehash how I feel about those other expansions.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. So now we get on to the fun part. Most recognizable comparison. So the only one I'm going to disallow is Little Alchemists.
Yeah.
Is the reimplementation.
That can't be in the top 750.
You're right. It's not. But I'm not going to allow it for less recognizable either.
Yeah.
So what did you have for most recognizable, and who wants to wake up first to get a crack at the easy answer?
So my answer is based on my favorite game with a digital implementation.
Oh,
and it's
okay.
basically cooperative Alchemists. The game is Detective, a modern crime board game.
Okay.
And as you play, you use both an app and an internet search engine to find clues and reveal the next step along your path. And so the game involves a lot of note-taking, a lot of digging through information, and also just making guesses. You only have so much time in a quote day. And so by the end of the day, you are forced to make a choice as to what you want to pursue. And then finally, you have to file a report with what you've learned and what you believe happened. And then it gives you a score.
All right. We need to play this game.
Sure.
Very cool. All right, Dave.
Yeah, I don't know it. Well, I have two if you want to go before me in case I steal
had
yours.
3, so go ahead.
Oh, all right. You know what? I'm going to go with, and I surprised myself a little bit with this one, but I'm going to say Turing Machine in the sense that,
Okay.
right? So in the sense that you're using an app, but that's just to hold on, that's holding on to the information. But we're making queries and then we're deducing, although, the more we've been getting into Alchemists, the more I'm thinking and questioning as to whether it's a deduction game at all. But it has that feeling that I feel like you're all solving this quicker than I am. That
Right.
tension of like, I'm trying to gather information. So in Turing Machine, so it's to solve it, but so that I can publish or whatever it is. And I feel like you guys are 1 or 2 steps ahead of me. Do you know more than I know? And
Right.
it captures that same kind of not just deduction, but the race to deduce.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so the easy answer, and we've actually talked about it several times already, was Quacks of Quedlinburg, right? So I assumed one of you was going to take it, but I don't want to take that one. We've talked about it. So the other one, funny, is Paul said it, I think accidentally, I don't know, Potion Explosion, which is like a board game version of a match 3 game, like Bejeweled or something like that.
It was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge call out, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So in that game, you are able to take a marble out, and if it creates a match 3, then you can take those out. And if they slide down and create another match, you get to take all those. And you are building up your pool of reagents with which you can then, you have little beakers on your burners. You have up to like 2, I think, at any given time. And you're filling the marbles in there of the right colors to produce that potion. That potion gives you a benefit on mitigating luck on your next endeavors. Again, we're going to say potion brewing is equal to alchemy for the purposes of this pod. So potion explosion was my choice there.
What was your third? What was your backup?
What was my backup to the backup?
Yeah.
A game called Broom Service. And if you're familiar with that one, it's an Alea game.
Yeah.
And has almost nothing to do with brewing potions, but you're delivering them. And it has this prisoner's dilemma mechanism where we each have in Broom Service like 10 roll cards that we're going to choose between. We're going to take 4 actions during this upcoming turn. And we each pick 4. And then whoever's the start player says, okay, I'm going to fly over forests. And there is a brave action or there's a cowardly action. And if you pick the brave action, you wait until everybody else who can follow has followed. And if anyone else chooses the brave action, you don't get anything. They get the brave action. If you choose the cowardly action, you get a reduced version of that benefit, but then someone else down the line will say, oh, I'm going to play brave. And if you are the last player to go, brave is guaranteed for you in that role if it was one of the 4 cards you picked. So that's the central mechanism of Broom Service. But it has really nothing to do with brewing potions. You're just pick up and delivering.
Right.
So less recognizable comparison. Outside of the top 750, Paul, what did you have here?
Well, there's a game I wanted to talk about, which I think is just the deductive grid portion of Alchemists and nothing else. And that is the classic game Sleuth by Sid Saxon.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's a 2-dimensional grid. Alchemist just turns it 45 degrees.
Okay.
But the game I want to promote is called Mystic Market. And it's actually
you mentioned
it's a market game about buying and selling, but for experienced players, it adds in potion brewing as well, which you can use to attack other players while they're trying to trade ingredients on this market and make money. And it's like a 25-minute game, and my family loves to play it.
Awesome. So Mystic Market. So now we need to play Detective and then Mystic Market. All right.
You got it.
And Sleuth. I think somebody was saying they've never played Sleuth. Somebody in our group.
Yeah, I haven't. So, Dave, what did you have as the less recognizable comparison?
Well, my answer, it's funny because I felt like I was a little bit out in left field, but turns out my answer is very, very similar to Paul's. It's a kind of a take on Sleuth or a kind of amped up Sleuth, and it's Mystery of the Abbey. And it's a similar kind of thing. You're dealing with a grid. You have you're making inquiries, and then you're making deductions. You're removing the ones that are incorrect. There's 3 different elements: the type of hair they have, how much they weigh, and whatever the other one is, hooded or unhooded. And then there's pluses and minuses of all of those elements.
Right. So
under the hood, it's almost the same engine that's running it.
Well, importantly, there's the movement and the action selection, right?
Yes.
Whereas Sleuth is just a logic puzzle such that some people complain it's not even a game.
Yeah. But Sleuth does have hand management because you're limited into the inquiries that you can make based on the cards you draw.
That's true.
The game of it is managing your hand and which cards you're going to use and which cards you're going to hold on to. In Mystery of the Abbey.
But my point was Mystery of the Abbey is much more of a game.
Yes, I agree with that. And the questions you can ask are wide open. But also, in another further comparison, in Mystery of the Abbey, you have revelations. You don't have to know the whole puzzle. You can go to the abbot and say, well, I know that the perpetrator was wearing a hood. It's just like publishing, that at the end of the game could turn into points. And then in this one, there's the j'accuse or the final accusation that ends the game. But I was surprised to see kind of how similar it was as I was thinking it through. But I do play Sleuth more than I play Mystery of the Abbey because Mystery of the Abbey has this really long drag in the middle of it that kind of bumps me out. But it's a fun game, but you get around half an hour in and then it stalls for a long time. You're in this zone where you're not learning quite as much yet, but the game starts to solve itself by making us pass all of our cards to each other. So if you go on, the longer you go, you're going to get all the information handed to you if you can't figure it out.
Got it. And my less recognizable comparison is, I'm being way too literal, I guess, is Trismegistus, which is another...
Excuse you.
Yeah, I don't...
Yeah, right? No, it's Federico, and I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, Pier Lorenzi and Daniele Tascini. And Daniele Tascini, you would know from like Soaking the Mayan Calendar, Voyages of Marco Polo. Anyway, this is their alchemy. I mean, it's literally called Trismegistus, the Ultimate Formula. And you are drafting 3 dice, and then you are, based on the numbers that you drafted, you're able to transmute materials and buy artifacts and increase your skill on mastery. It's another heavy alchemy game. And currently ranks in at 804. House rules. How would you improve Alchemists? Do you have any thoughts here besides adding a timer?
I don't really have any. I might say be sure to use, if you have it available, use busy days and startup funding. It's not really a house rule, but that's the way I would prefer to play it. But I don't really have any house rules to
pass out magnifying glasses or print out bigger sheets to write on.
That's what I had. Yes. It's like I laminated the grid papers, right? And gave you guys dry erase markers. I got them in the box. And it was still really hard to read some of the positive and negative ions on some of those.
On the small ones.
Yeah. So there is a file that BGG user Zwaloo, Zwaloo, added to the game that is high contrast versions of these cards. And they're a little bit longer. So you have more room to write notes in them.
Well, is this even colorblind friendly? I think not.
I'm not sure it's sight friendly.
Right. But we have a colorblind player in our group, and I never really gave much thought of it until, we were playing with this person.
Right.
And it's really important, on your ticket to ride to have symbols on the different colors and things like that.
Yeah, the red and the green. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in the same position on each part of the grid, but that doesn't help you when you're getting the results off of the app.
Right.
So, yeah, good call out, Dave.
On the app, it doesn't even say poison, health. Wait.
It doesn't. It's just the color.
They could have put it on the app. When it says red, whatever, say,
All right, CGE, when you're listening to this, update the app and make sure you put the
potion names.
Potion names. It'll also help increase the theme score for Dave.
Yes.
All right. So if this game is being played at game night, what do you want to play afterwards? What's the best double feature game that goes along with it? I'm going for the easy answer on this one.
Okay. Well, after our discussion when you bent my mind the other day, I'm going to go with Anno 1800, which you believed counted as an alchemy game.
Right.
All right. You want to do this now?
Yes.
Anno 1800 is an alchemy game. Prove me wrong.
This is the perfect time for it. But yeah, you're basically creating things and treeing up resources to get to ones you need. So I was like, oh my God.
Right. I'm ready for the alchemy reskin of it.
If they did, it would totally fit. That's kind of my point. All the way down to, I don't know how to make whatever the alchemical equivalent of beer would be, right? But Dave does. So I'm going to go ahead and use a trade token, and Dave's going to get a gold coin for letting me use his beer while I use it to make whatever. It's the next thing that needs beer.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess Anno 1800 has all the things I was complaining about that this game doesn't have.
The second and third and fourth level creations.
Yeah. So when I was going through that thought process, how would you manage the secrecy of the tech tree?
You can't have a secret tech tree in Anno 1800 because you have to be planning for that end goal.
Well, isn't your hand the secret tech tree?
Because you guys don't know what I'm trying to...
Yeah, your hand of cards. Nobody else knows what you need to combine.
But it doesn't have that sense of discovery that we were talking about, like in Beyond the Sun, where we discover it as we go. But you couldn't in Anno 1800. You need to have that end destination in mind as you're forging your path.
Right. Yeah. It's got a lot of the hallmarks that we led the show with. Like, what does an alchemy game need? It needs ingredients. It needs mixing. It needs money, or it needs points. Anno's got them all. So
I had to pick it.
And for me, the answer was easy. It's just Quaxoquedlinburg, scoop of vanilla, scoop of chocolate. Don't waste my time.
Wait, your answer wasn't Anno 1800? Oh.
No.
It's Quacks, Dave.
It's Quacks.
Quacks. What about you?
Well, I want to say Anno 1800 now. Especially because we did last time. But I mean, my real answer here is, to me, Alchemist is it feels loosey-goosey while I'm playing it. I always feel like I'm holding on by my fingernails.
Right.
And the swinginess of the cards or whatever that might be. So I'm looking for something that feels more grounded and concrete. So for reasons I don't even understand myself, I want to pair this up with Age of Steam. That's a game where I feel much more grounded in what's happening, in what you want to accomplish and what I'm trying to accomplish. And it's all on the surface, but still very difficult.
Right.
I don't know. Bring me back to earth after Alchemy.
It's interesting that you bring up Age of Steam, because when we were talking about the first player doesn't get to go first, you just get first choice of where you want to go as far as waking up and the benefits that you get. Age of Steam is the only other game that readily comes to mind for me that has something similar to that, where when I go first, I'm not choosing to go first in the round. I get to go first on what bonus I'm going to get that round. Right. So if I want urbanization or if I want engineer, I'll be the first to go there. But that doesn't necessarily mean I go first when it comes to laying
somebody
traps.
else could take that as their advantage. Yep.
Yeah, 2 of those are going firster in something.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I like it. So what feature of Alchemists still stands out to you? What has aged the best? In the 11 years this game has been out.
For me, it's honestly the digital app integration.
Right.
When I think about how old it is, I'm like, wow, they got this so right.
And it doesn't try to do too much. It does what it needs to do, and it really fits in. I agree. What did you have, Dave?
Well, as much as I love the deduction board and putting the little chits in there and, following the columns down, as I really enjoy that as a cleaner implementation of like Mystery of the Abbey or Sleep.
Right.
But for me, it's publishing and debunking.
Oh, okay.
Publishing something half-baked is what just makes it so fun, is that you have to act on limited knowledge. It is what really stands out to me.
Nice. I was going to ask for your elevator pitch for this game. Like, if you had to distill it down, if you were describing it to somebody who's never played the game before, how would you describe it? And typically it might be something like, oh, you're going to collect ingredients and you're going to use an app to figure out what they make so you can find out the nature of the ingredients. Mm-hmm. And yes, it is absolutely that. But that is just one sliver of what the game requires you to do, because you also have to sell. You also have to publish. You have to be able to debunk. You got to do all these different things. And I agree. Publishing and debunking is great.
Well, your description there brings me back to the point that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Is this a deduction game at all? Is there any deducing? We're all learning. Yeah. We're all learning things at the same pace. The game is not in who's going to solve it first. The game is in who's going to make the right moves, who's going to publish. Because publish isn't always about knowing everything, as we've been talking about.
Right.
I mean, is it a deduction game at all?
Absolutely. You can easily get 11, 14 points from deduction.
Oh.
Okay.
I thought you were going to go the other way. You could really mess yourself up if you make a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
you could,
yes.
like what Dave did the other time. You could easily lose 10 points by a false deduction.
Right.
No. Well, Todd was the one who made false deductions. I felt that I was falling behind in the game. So instead of hedging my early publishing, I just went for it because I felt like I was out of the game. So I thought I'm just going to go shoot for the moon.
Yeah. All right. So what feature of the game now disappoints? Anything that stands out to you that is not so great about Alchemists?
Well, for me, it's the cards, like what I was saying. And maybe I need to change my attitude about them. Maybe it's that I'm trying to force my own game despite the cards, and I need to listen to the cards. It's a layer of the game that I'm not interested in. I should put it that way.
Right.
I don't think it's ruining the game, but I just don't want to deal with the cards. I want to do the other parts of the game, the fun parts.
Okay.
I actually really like the cards, except for one. Start the game with 5 points. I don't understand how the other players are supposed to catch up with that.
Right. It does say you don't get those points until the end of the first round, but that doesn't matter. Because at the end of the first round is when the first adventurer is going to come to town, and now you already start with an extra happy face when it comes time to bid, which is the real advantage that one provides. I went with the deduction grids and how hard they are to read. And I'd like to think that they've always been difficult to read, but then again, this game is 10 years old. My eyes are 10 years older. So maybe I just don't like them now.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, are they that difficult when it's not laminated? Is the lamination kind of doling it for us?
The small circles, it's sometimes very hard to tell whether it's a plus or minus.
Yeah.
Right. So did this game replace a previous game for you? I think we're going to have some fun with this one.
Well, my answer is not that exciting, so I'll go first. But I will say Mystery of the Abbey is that I love Mystery of the Abbey. It was one of my first kind of modern games, and it's a good game to just throw on a non-gamer and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was already kind of dying out anyways, but when it came down to it, I feel like I would grab this over Mystery of the Abbey.
Yeah.
For me, it was Letters of Whitechapel.
Ooh, nice.
I was so enamored with hidden movement games, but I thought Alchemists was just such a superior deduction game.
And Letters is so thematic and absorbing and takes so darn long to play.
Yeah. I had more time when I was younger.
Okay. That's fair. So, Paul, I'm going to melt your brain again because Alchemists replaced another alchemy game called Le Havre.
So all conversion games are alchemy games for you.
I mean, if you wanted to throw, Century and
Ora et Labora
and Splendor, I mean, they're all alchemy games. They could all easily be rebranded as alchemy, and I would totally buy into it.
Well, so I was thinking when we were going through the comparisons, when I got to it, I thought I'm probably going to put Res Arcana. And then as I thought about it, I thought, is Res Arcana, I mean, it's alchemy themed.
Right.
But it's a cube exchange. I mean, I guess so.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like alchemy in the way that this does.
Right.
Where I'm actually making new things.
That's true.
So is Furnace an alchemy game?
I mean, you want to make the argument for it? I'll listen.
I mean, I guess so. You're mixing. I mean, I'm not ready. This isn't the unifying alchemy theory.
Maybe it is, Dave.
I mean, I think cube exchange is just cube exchange. I don't think so.
It's alchemy.
Yeah. I mean, you're mixing two things to get a third thing. But
right. And specifically when we're talking about what could a different alchemy game look like, I think what's interesting about Le Havre is I am going to make those second level things. And if I have to use your building, then I need to pay you to do it. Like if I were to make the dream alchemy game and it had that as a component, I would be needing to pay you to get some of what you know how to make that I don't. And Le Havre has that. So yeah, this replaced Le Havre. I'm sticking with it.
Interesting.
So has Alchemist been replaced by anything? And if so, what? You already know my answer. We played it after we played this one.
Well, my answer is not really. No.
Okay.
Nothing has replaced Alchemist. I just don't play it that often.
Right. We played it a lot more when it was online. We had a run there.
Oh, yeah.
I have two directions with this one. One, if I'm thinking of the deduction element, I play Sleuth now more than I play. So replaced by an older game because my kids really like Sleuth.
That's fine.
And it's quick and we can bust out a game pretty quickly.
Yep.
But really, when it comes to Alchemist, it's that kind of CGE experience. And I think I would replace it with all the other big CGE games that came since, like Lost Ruins of Arnak or Kutna-Hora or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're very different games, but it's still, there's just something about CGE games that have a similar vibe that I could go in that direction with. That they've all kind of replaced Alchemist.
Okay, nice. And then my answer is Anno 1800. So
yeah.
Soundtrack. What music would you want to listen to while playing Alchemists? And we missed this opportunity the other week. We didn't think about it. But did you find some good music to listen to?
I explored around, and for me, it's basically the same music I would listen to during Iron Dragon. I just want to hear some Fantasy Tavern music.
Right? I think I had that written down. Like, Paul's going to say Fantasy Tavern. Yeah, no. Solid choice.
So I did listen to it while I drove to our Alchemist game night.
Nice. Got in the mood. Dave?
Well, I pretty much said the same thing, but I just referred to it as Bardcore, which I think is,
Bardcore.
Yeah.
It's like they've got a version of Enter Sandman that's being played by a lute and a mandolin.
Which sounds perfect for, like, tavern. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, I'd like to pick something from Skyrim because it turns out that was the inspiration. I don't know if you guys saw that video I linked.
Yeah.
There was an interview with Matoush Kotri.
I loved it.
And he said that he came up with the idea for this game while he was playing Skyrim. And one of the professions in Skyrim is alchemy. And you're going around and you're buying these reagents and you're randomly combining them to find out what they can make and then sell those and move on. But I listened to the Skyrim soundtrack and it is so like epic and action packed that it would not be good for a thinking game.
It's not about brewing.
It is not.
Potions. But
it turns out The Sims Medieval is really good. So rating on Board Game Geek scale of 1 to 10 now, no decimals. How would you rate Alchemists? Dave, I'm going to let you go first.
For me, it's a 7. I mean, it's a solid game. I feel like if we did the brass challenge and we decided to play 20 times in 1 year,
right,
I probably would lift that by really, because I do think there are layers into this game that I just haven't cracked yet. So that might make it rise a little bit. But where I am with the game now, it's a 7. I really enjoy it when I play it, but I feel like there's a little more to it that I'm not accessing.
Okay, that's fair. Paul, what did you have it at?
I like Alchemists quite a bit, and I have it rated as an 8.
Nice. I have it down as an 8 as well. I think it's even a 9 at 3. I really like this game. Is it replayable, and how soon would you want to revisit this game? I know we played it twice in, 3 weeks? And I had a blast each time, so I could play this one again next week. I know we won't, but I could.
Yeah, I could keep going with it. I feel like the only reason it's not hitting the table more is just the fire hose of good games that have been coming out in the last few years. We just have so much taking our attention. If we didn't, I'd be happy to play this game, every other week, once a month, whatever. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
As it is, it's, a couple times a year would be great. We're not even hitting it that much, but that'd be great.
Right.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you guys.
All right.
It's absolutely replayable, and there's just new shiny things that get in the way.
Yeah. Right. So, Dave, is this game better to talk about than to actually play it?
Well, the nature of doing this podcast, every game is 1 or 2 points higher after I'm done doing the research and really having an in-depth conversation with you guys about it. By the end, I'm like, wait, maybe this is my favorite game. I'm always swayed by it.
Right.
So, yeah, my experience has been, I really like the game, but not as much as a lot of other games that I love.
Right. And so is this the perfect alchemy game? Now we'll get to that question, Paul.
I mean, not as much as Anno 1800, I guess.
For a board game, I cannot think of a better alchemy game.
Ooh.
But if we expand it to video games, then I think there are better ones.
Nice. Okay. Can you name any of those video games? I want to go play them. Oh, I can think of one. The same guys that did Space Chem did an alchemy themed.
Magnum Opus. Yeah. That was a really good one. I played the heck out of that one. Yes.
All right.
I guess it's the top of the heap when it comes to alchemy games. Like the criteria you put in the beginning of the podcast here, you're gathering your ingredients, you're, doing lab work, you're doing tests, you're sometimes dangerously drinking your own potions, because you're in a hurry, and the academic level of it with the publishing and that. I mean, it's really hitting all the hash marks, and I can't think of a better one. I mean, with Gizmos, and there's a lot of other games that are kind of in this family.
Right.
None of them are hitting at this level.
I agree. And with that, it's time for the exhibition. For our next episode, we'll tackle the one game you all knew we would eventually have to do. So thanks for being here tonight, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks. It was a good one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Replayable. Support for our podcast comes from listeners like you. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a review wherever you listen to us. Thank you for your support. Come and talk about board games with us at replayable.fm or on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook as ReplayableFM. You can also join our team at patreon.com/replayable. We welcome your feedback, which is the only way that we are going to get better. You can get in touch with us via email at feedback@replayable.fm. And if you're interested in sponsoring us, then please contact us at sponsors@replayable.fm.